In 1928, a lovable rodent by the name of Mickey Mouse had revolutionized the animation world by starring in the first animated short feature film with a completely post-produced soundtrack of music, dialogue, and sound effects. At the ripe age of 70, Mickey Mouse had made history once more by altering American copyright laws. Before the 1976 Act, the last major revision to statutory copyright law in the United States occurred in 1909. In deliberating the Act, Congress noted the many unforeseen advances in technology, such as radio, television, and sound recordings, all of which needed copyright protection.
We accept it.
We reject it.
You're an elephant.
You're an ass.
Yeah.
When President Gerald Ford signed the final version of the Act, copyright protection was extended to literary works, musical works, including accompanying words, dramatic works, including accompanying music, motion pictures and other audiovisual works, and finally, sound recordings. The author's work was protected for 70 years after their death instead of the previous 50. This extended the copyright of Steamboat Willie up to 2003. In 1998, the Disney Corporation realized that the only way to prevent the work from entering the public domain was to lobby Congress for a new act. Although many copyright holders shared the Disney company's concern, only one person stood out. As far as Capitol Hill was concerned, he was the spokesman for Disney's cause. The 1960s pop icon, Sonny Bono, was an American congressman. Both houses of the United States Congress passed the act as Public Law 105-298 with a voice vote, making it impossible to determine who voted for or against. Because of his efforts, on October 27, President Bill Clinton signed into law the Copyright Term Extension Act of 1998.
I guess that's...
As a result, instead of 70 years after the death of the author, Walt Disney, an additional 20 years were added. Steamboat Willie would not enter the public domain until the year 2023. Needless to say, not everyone agreed with the outcome.
I think there is a great danger in the overreach of intellectual property laws in shrinking the public information commons to the point that the ability of society to function as effectively as it has will be threatened. I have personally witnessed in the time that I have been here copyright laws expand, new laws applied on top of the copyright regime, including the Digital Millennium Copyright Act. I have watched as content owners have tried through licensing, including shrink-wrap licenses and other kinds of license agreements, to enhance the protections they receive even above what the copyright laws offer.
It was not long after its creation that the new act would be opposed. In 2002, Eric Eld and other commercial publishers petitioned the U.S. Supreme Court to review the constitutionality of the new act. His argument was threefold. 1. Under the Constitution's Copyright Act, authors and inventors had exclusive rights for a limited time. 2. That any copyright law must be subject to scrutiny under the First Amendment, thereby ensuring a balance between freedom of speech and the interests of copyright. 3. The doctrine of public trust requires the government to show a public benefit to any transfer of public property into private hands, and that the CTEA violates this doctrine by withdrawing material from the public domain. On January 15, 2003, the court held the CTEA constitutional by a 7-2 decision. The major argument for the act was that the Constitution specified that Congress only needed to set time limits for copyright, the length of which was left to their discretion. According to the majority argument, written by Justice Ruth Ginsburg, as long as the limit is not forever, any limit set by Congress can be deemed constitutional. The plaintiffs in the Eld case have, as of 2003, shifted their efforts toward the U.S. Congress in support of a bill called the Public Domain Enhancement Act. This would make the provisions of the now called Sonny Bono Act apply only to copyrights that had been registered with the Library of Congress. The bill has only been referred to in other cases.
Here at Disney, we like to think that making magic is what we do best. Walt Disney set the standard for making magic in 1937.
Ironically, Walt Disney had to refer to a previous work to create Steamboat Willie. Steamboat Bill Jr. debuted earlier that same year. Walt Disney was not sued because Steamboat Willie was a parody, supporting fair use before being incorporated into the Act of 1976.
We have a large information commons of ideas. This is a commons of ideas developed over the course of American history, developed over the course, in fact, of world civilization. And it is upon the foundation of that information acquired over many years of our history that progress occurs. That information becomes the foundation for new ideas that are simply oftentimes only modifications of what has gone before. If we had permanent copyright protection, those modifications could not occur. If we shrink the fair use doctrine, we also shrink the availability of that commons of information for people to be able to use in order to modify past principles and create progress. And so the fair use doctrine is essential to the progress of our society in that very fundamental way. And this is something that I think people need to gain a broader understanding of as this debate matures in the public and in the Congress.
The current extension is now up to 90 years. If this trend continues, the public domain will never expand, thus weakening the right to fair use. And now, for your enjoyment, the remaining footage of Steamboat Willie.
Now it's time to say goodbye to all our company. Till I see
you real soon.
K-E-Y.
Why? Because we like you.
M-O